Let's welcome our host, Miss Mary Kathleen Cortez.
Welcome to Mary!
Morning!
Today, we have invited four literary professionals who will talk about Filipino literary works, particularly about death and spirituality. That would be three poems and one short story, namely You Can Choose Your Afterlife by Mario Eric Gamalinda, Is It Kingfisher by Marjorie Evasco, Gabu by Carlos Angeles, and The Distance to Andromeda by Gregorio Brillantes. Let's welcome our first guest, Miss Kit Chavellanar.
Good morning.
Good morning! So Miss Kit Chavellanar is about to talk You Can Choose Your Afterlife. So can you please tell us something about the poet?
Mario Eric Gamalinda is born in Manila. He will be having his birthday on October 14. He studied journalism in University of Santo Tomas and University of the Philippines. He's a poet, essayist, and a fictionist. He went to Great Britain to represent the Philippines in the Cambridge International Writers' Conference in 1990. In 1991, he attended the Hawthornden International Writers' Retreat in Scotland. Gamalinda got a Rockefeller Foundation residency in Bellagio, Italy. He also participated in the Japan International Cooperation Agency's program for the 21st century. He also got recognitions and achievements locally and internationally. Gamalinda returned to Fundación Valparaíso to work on a new novel in 2013. He currently teaches at Columbia University Center for the Study of Ethnicity and Race.
So Mario Eric Gamalinda is really a known poet in the Philippines. Can you give us now some ideas about the message of the poem?
You Can Choose Your Afterlife is found in Gamalinda's book Zero Gravity. The poem is about the customs of the Tiboli, an indigenous people living in South Cotabato in southern Mindanao. The speaker starts to express his thoughts by narrating the customs of the Tiboli. The tribe supposes that we are not judged by the way we live, whether we do good or we do evil, but the kind of death we encounter. He then furthermore discusses and enumerates the kind of death and the afterlife that each corresponds. You Can Choose Your Afterlife is composed of 16 stanzas with 3 lines each or tercet. The author used enjambment or a running thought from one line to another without using punctuation marks. The tone is informative at first, then shifts to being curious through questioning. The first 2 stanzas introduce the belief of the Tiboli. We are not judged by good or evil, but by the kind of death we meet. Whether we do good or evil in our life, it doesn't matter because our destination after life is determined according to the way we died. The Tiboli afterlife has different destinations. First, if you die by sword or you're a murder victim or a warrior slain in the battle, you will go to a kingdom where they call it Kayong. In that kingdom, everything is red or bloodthirsty. Entry into Kayong is announced by the sound of the tintinabulation of copper bells, which are agung or klintang, and the lamentation of bamboo violins or duwagay. Thunder and lightning during burial signifies a spirit's entry to Kayong. A wounded sun hovers in the 6th stanza means that even the sky is reddish. Second, those people who died from drowning will return to the navel of the sea by becoming a sea creatures. They will be under the rule of Fon Muhin, a god of all creatures who breathe water. Third, those who died of illness will go to Mogul, where day is night and night is day. They will receive everything they desired, however, they are not free from suffering. Lastly, those who committed suicide will go to Kumawing, where everything sways and swings, and there is nothing that is constant. The speaker is asking why Arne left without leaving any reason. It is only revealed in the next stanzas that he committed suicide, because the speaker imagined him in a place where you can't keep a cup of coffee still and people keep changing the rules of soccer, which means that everything sways and there's nothing constant in that world. So, he's in Kumawing. In the last few lines, the speaker assumes that Arne won't miss them, and even in death, he is one step ahead. Like he planned to leave them already. Because in my perspective, maybe he thinks that they are already settled and can do without him. In some suicidal cases, the friends and family that were left behind, most often than not, they do not know the suicidal tendency of that suicidal person. For example, in the case of Robin Williams, no one knows what will happen except for that suicidal person.
That tribe has a strange belief, but we cannot say that that belief is wrong. Before we end, I just have a few more questions. You said a while ago that the poem is not only about death, but somehow about choices. What do you mean by that?
Ah, yes. In that, which most of us imagine that we have no choice, Gamalinda is suggesting that maybe or somehow we do have a choice if we are practicing the customs of customs or beliefs of the Tiboli. We can choose what way we want to die and what afterlife we would want to go. Yes.
Did the poem contradict your views about life, death, judgment? Did it affect your religious beliefs in any way?
Yes. All my life, I only believe in heaven, in hell, or purgatory. So if you want to go to heaven, you do good, and you do everything for the greater glory of God, and proclaim the kingdom. And if you didn't care at all whether you go to hell or heaven, you just do whatever, evil things. So, I didn't imagine myself being a creature of the sea or being in a place where it's red and such, so it contradicts my views.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Avillanar.
Thank you.
For our next literary professional, let's all welcome Miss Nadine Ranieses.
Very morning.
So Miss Nadine Ranieses is right here to talk about Is It Kingfisher? Miss Nadine, can you please tell us something about the poet?
Marjorie M. Vasco was born on the 21st of September 1953 in Maribojoc, Bohol. Marjorie M. Vasco was born on the 21st of September 1953 in Maribojoc, Bohol. She is known to write in two languages, namely English and Cebuano Visayan. Vasco is a supporter of women's rights, especially those of women writers. She was one of the first Filipina feminist poet. She came from a family of teachers who converse in English most of the time. Some of her prize-winning poetry books are Dreamweavers, Selected Poets 1976 to 1986, and Acritones, Poems in English and Cebuano 1999. Both won National Book Awards from the Manila Critics Circle. She is currently a faculty member in the La Salle University.
Can you please give us some ideas about the message of the poem?
The poem speaks about man's continuous quest and search for God. In the poem, the woman finds peace by observing the beauty of the island or the setting that she was in. God may not be seen or heard through the senses, but people know that He exists and He is permanent. Therefore, making our quest for Him in the peace that comes with it eternal. God is also portrayed by the color blue and the kingfisher in the poem. The poem is a free verse. Its lines has no regular sequence or pattern of rhythm, and they're not of the same length. The tone is gentle, and the author used words that can be easily understood by common people. Nonetheless, they are beautiful words that help deliver the message. Those calm words indicate that the piece must be read in a smooth and calmly way. The theme of the poem is serene, solemn, blissful, and dreamy. The poem is in the first-person point of view, and it is as if she is talking to the audience as though he or she is a companion in the poem. On the first few lines, the you that the persona is referring to can be us, the audience, or anyone in particular. The persona described how she desires God as basic and blue. Basic meaning necessary, essential, and important, and the color blue can be the sea or like what is mentioned in the poem, and I quote, "what brings the living wave to our mouths," end quote, which can refer to oxygen. The blue here can be anything, yet it can be everything. Maybe the persona described it as that because desiring God is innate for her, that it is basic because it is a part of her everyday life. On the line where the author quoted Ramirez as, "God is blue," the author metaphorically pertained to God as blue. In psychology, blue is associated with trust, peace, and warmth. This comparison expresses the author's feeling about God and what the beauty of his creations bring forth, which is inner peace. Juan Ramon Ramirez is a Spanish poet that is also a Nobel Prize winner for literature. His works are mainly about God and desiring God. In the line, and I quote, "It is the bird who greets us as we come round the eastern bend of the island." It portrays God as a welcoming God, Him being the bird that greets us, and we realize that there is a thin line between God and us, as described in the poem as hairbreadth boundary. The kingfisher, also known as halcyon, is known as a symbol for peace and prosperity. Many legends and myths have been told about the kingfisher, many originating in ancient Greece. The kingfisher is believed to be the promise of abundance, of new warmth and love that is about to unfold within your life. In Greek mythology, Alcyone, daughter of Aeolus, the king of the winds, found her husband drowned and cast herself into the sea. The gods rewarded her devotion by turning her into a kingfisher, and Aeolus forbade the winds to blow during the Halcyon days, which is 7 days before and 7 days after the winter solstice. That is when legend has it that the kingfisher lays its eggs. This can be compared to the devotion of the persona to God. Moreover, the qualities that symbolizes the kingfisher represents God because those are qualities that we associate God with.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard the color blue repeated throughout the poem. It seems that everything that the persona sees blue signifies God. And as what you have mentioned, it symbolizes peace, youth, truth, and spirituality. Am I right?
Yes, that's right, Mary. However, the blueness that the author speaks about for the next lines pertains to melancholy because the woman in the poem has not reached what she has longed to be. Then the burning blue, which is enlightenment, gives her the answers that she was looking for. She then realizes that what she has been looking for was just right in front of her. The final lines, and I quote, "Desiring God is transparent blue, the color which makes our souls visible," end quote, uses transparent blue, meaning it's pure and clean, and this purity and transparency makes people see right through our soul and who we really are.
Life is really a continuous quest for something or someone. In the poem, the author evidently believes that there is a higher being. Do you think everyone must believe in this one God to achieve eternal bliss?
Well, I think that there really is a higher being. However, coming from different religions, we call him different names. But I think that for as long as we do what we think is right to the best of our knowledge, then we will all achieve the eternal bliss that we are looking for in the end.
Don't switch your channels because we will be right back at the Merry
Morning!
Wow, she looks ready to start her day. Oh, poor thing. Oh, careful.
Do you want to know my secret?
So what's her secret? The Stressuffocator, a travel pillow with built-in alarm clock and aromatherapy that helps reduce your neck pain due to its fluffiness and helps you sleep faster and better. The Stressuffocator comes in 5 different scents: chamomile, jasmine, rose geranium, peppermint, and lavender. Order now for only $795.97. Now they're both ready to take on their day. The Stressuffocator. It's so fluffy your stress is gonna die.
We now have our guest who will tackle about our last poem entitled Gabu. Let's all welcome Miss Clea Pimentel.
Merry morning!
Merry morning! Can you please tell us something about the author?
Carlos A. Angeles is born in Tacloban City, on May 25, 1921. He attended various colleges such as Ateneo, UP, wherein he joined UP Writers Club, and several Luzon universities. On the year 1964, wherein for the first time poetry is included in the Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for Literature, Carlos's collection of 47 poems entitled Stone of Jewels won that year's first prize. In addition to this, that said collection also won Republic Cultural Heritage Awards for Literature. And on the year 1978, Carlos moved into the USA and settled there with his family.
Can you give us some ideas about the message of the poem?
Gabu talks about life's uncertainties, talks about the ups and downs of life, and it tells us that change is one of the constant things in life. There are many challenges thrown in our way, causing life to be restless. And when a person reaches his or her peak in life, one thing that a person now yearns for is rest. Therefore, the poem Gabu overall gives us the picture of a quest for a home.
Gabu is a place here in the Philippines. It is located along the coastlines of Ilocos Norte near Pagudpod. In addition to this, Gabu has a very small population of people residing there. This must be because the place is frequently visited by typhoons all year round. For this reason, Gabu, Ilocos Norte perhaps served as an inspiration to Carlos Angeles in writing his work, Gabu. Gabu is a lyric poem that consists of 3 quatrains, a tercet, and a line. It also has an external rhyme scheme where the last word in the first and third lines and the last word in the second and fourth lines make for either frank rhymes or slant rhymes. Aside from the external rhyme schemes, he also used internal rhyme schemes, namely sibilants, as seen in the lines, "The battering restlessness of the sea," and "Where the spilt salt of its heart lies spread." In addition to this, the poet made use of figures of speech such as metaphor, like sea as a metaphor to life. Then there's personification, as seen in the lines, "The vital splendor misses," and "It is the sea that pursues a habit of shores." Aside from these, the poet also made use of enjambments. The poem Gabu then is presented in the first person point of view. The persona seems like he or she is at the beach of Gabu. He or she seems to be watching the rough sea and contemplating on life as he does so. Thus, the tone of the poem is that of lament and sadness. In the poem, the sea was described as a raging sea. We then get the picture of a restless sea that causes destruction around the area. It's as if the tides will devour everything within its reach. In relation to the description of the sea in the poem, the poet made use of the sea as a metaphor to life. This is because in life, nothing is constant. Life is not solid. Instead, it is fluid, and there is always change. Like one moment, you're on the height of life, and the next, you're in the lows and in the darkest depths of life. In addition to this, we could relate the line, "The battering restlessness of the sea," to a person's restlessness in achieving his or her goals, and that in life there is a constant struggle. The The third stanza then talks about a person's journey in life nearing its end, such as expressed in the line, "and neutral where the sea beached its brine." Beached here means to go out of the water and onto a beach. Brine, on the other hand, means the salty water of the ocean. This line, therefore, gives us the picture of the transition of a person's life from the fluid movements of the water, which represents life, to the firm and solid ground of the shore. In relation to these, in the line, "The waste of centuries is gray and dead," waste of centuries then refer to the what-ifs and regrets a person has in his or her life. When a person is nearing their end, most often than not, that's when they remember or look back to their regrets. But no matter how much they think about these stuff, they will not be able to do anything about it, but leave the regrets in the past where they truly belong and embrace the rest and peace that they yearn for. In the fourth stanza, the line, "All things forfeited are most loved and dear," gives us the idea that those we lost still stay in our hearts no matter how long it has been. In addition to this, it is in our human nature to not easily forget those that are important to us. Therefore, the line can mean that in death, there is immortality. This is because when one dies, they would still continue to live in their loved ones' hearts and memories. Lastly, the line, "It is the sea that pursues a habit of shores," represents our constant search or quest for home. It then shows a spiritual context in terms that the home that we are referring to is not our physical home here on earth, but our spiritual home with God. There is a constant yearning for the peace and rest that God offers in His kingdom. This is especially true when we have lived our lives fully and yearns nothing more but to be home with our God.
Life really has its own ups and downs, but someday we will all find that peaceful place. Miss Clea, do you agree with the line, "All things forfeited are most loved and dear"?
Yes, I agree with that line because I think that the ones that we lost are those that we realize are truly the most important in our lives. This is because it is in our human natures to take those who are always with us for granted. It is only when they are gone that we see their importance in our life and that we see the relevance of the imprints that they left us.
Our last guest for today will discuss about a short story entitled "The Distance to Andromeda." Let's all welcome Miss Ivy Magturo. Good morning! So, Miss Ivy, can you please tell us something about the author?
Gregorio C. Brillantes, a Palanca Award Hall of Famer and a multi-awarded fiction writer, is one of the Philippines' most popular writers in English. Brillantes is a native of Camiling, Tarlac. He graduated in Ateneo de Manila University.
Miss Ivy, can you please give us the structure of the story?
Distance to Andromeda uses foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is the words that gives hints without revealing the story. For example, the description of the movie in the beginning of the story is a foreshadowing of what will happen to Ben in the ending of the story. There is also a repetitive references to the movie, to the sky, and to the star that make the readers curious what this has something to do with the story.
Oh, I see. How about the gist of the narrative?
Ben is constantly feeling a strange vibration inside him, a humming, an echo so incomprehensible, something he can't utter. But those feelings were removed when he catches the streak of the shooting star from the corner of his eye. Suddenly, The fear, the loneliness he feels were replaced by the love that surrounds him, and no evil can touch him in his father's house.
The Distance to Andromeda talks about a boy named Ben who went to a movie house with his friend Pepe. The movie was about the last men, women, and children who were traveling through space in search of a new Earth. Ben wants to stay and watch it for the second time, but Pepe waved at him as a signal that they should go for they might be late for supper.
Come on, Ben. We need to go home.
But I still want to watch it again.
On their way home, the two boys still linger after the movie house, and Ben suddenly felt a strange feeling inside him. He tried to tell it to his friend, but he can utter no word. They continued walking down the street, passed and greeted Dr. Martinez, stopped by the plaza, and sat on a bench. Then Tito passed by and joined them. They talk about random topics, then the talk shifts to the movie Ben and Pepe watch, which Tito doesn't believe in because the movie seems so odd. Ben walked home alone, then suddenly he stopped and gazed up at the sky. He stood along the bridge and recalled the scenes from the movie, particularly the view of the heavens through the portholes and other astronomical illustrations. He felt that he was just a tiny, helpless boy. He then reached home and interacted with the members of the family.
What about the characters of the story?
Ben. Ben portrays a character that doesn't want to leave and wanted to stay longer. It is shown in the line, Ben thinks of staying for one more screening, but his friend Pepe stood up to leave, waving to him from the aisle. Pepe. His character portrays the willingness to leave. He is the one calling Ben to leave the movie house. Tito. He is a realistic being. He does not believe in fantasy. For him, those are crazy talks. Father. He is the provider and controller of the family. He symbolizes the one. He knows everything about everyone. He loves everyone. The one who has the right to judge everyone. Family members. The family members are very dependent to their father.
What is the resolution? How did it end?
The Distance to Andromeda tells the reader that life is a journey. It involves of departures and arrivals until people will reach their final destination. The survivors of Earth, the last men and women of this world, ride in a rocket and travel outer space in search of another place of air and greenness. As they travel, they see through the portholes the planets and stars, until a globe of shining water and green shadowed land appears through the viewports. They have found a new world to live. There is a journey involved. There is a departure on Earth, and there is arrival as well. Arrival in their newfound world. This story shows that if you leave, you will arrive somewhere. There is always a destination for every living. In the case of Ben and Pepe, they arrive at the movie house and watch. After the movie, they have to leave. Although Ben's still wanting to stay for another screening, they really need to leave, and so they leave. In life, no matter how long you want to stay, if it is already your time to go, you will have to leave. When the two arrive at the plaza, they see Tito and talk for a while. The three then part ways to go home. Just like in life, we meet people, but then there would come a time when we really needed to part. Ben headed home alone and suddenly he feels lonely. He realizes with a sudden loneliness that in the universe he is very thin, only a boy shrinking helpless, standing between the dark river and the lights in the sky. But upon spending a simple yet meaningful night with his father, who had just come home after being away for a week, and the rest of a family, and witnessing a shooting star fall from the sky, the abrupt loneliness is replaced by the feeling that love surrounds him and no evil can touch him here in his father's house. The Distance to Andromeda uses symbols: the movie house, the rocket, the outer space, the skaters, the stars, the sky, and the moon. The movie house. It represents the world people live in. Different movie screening in it signify the different lives people have. There are drama. Rocket ship. In the movie, it became the mode of transportation of the survivors of the Earth in the quest of their search of a new world. In life, it can represent the fate of people who believes that they will go back to their creation. It can also represent whatever it is that is significant to people to arrive at their final destination, whatever that final destination is for them. The outer space, it is where the last people on Earth traveled. It is where they see through the portholes the stars, planets, and the moon. These things they see represent the multitude of circumstances people face in the journey of this life. The skaters rink. In the white light of the neon lamps, the continuous rumbling sound of the skaters rises and falls with the quality of the cemented rink, now hollow and receding, now full and ascending, going around seemingly unending. Life as a journey is not always a smooth ride. Nevertheless, it is not always a tough ride. The skaters and skaters rink signify the ups and downs of life. It is not always every day that we are on top, and vice versa. The falls are the trials and challenges, while the ups are the joys and victories of life. The stars, sky, and the moon in the story Ben always look up to these, so these symbolize the final destination. In the story, it reminded Ben of the movie.
How can we associate existentialism with a story?
It is seen that the character is always deeply thinking and asking questions about everything. He always finds meaning for every single thing. Because of constant wondering, it led him to think that he is just a tiny part of the world that made him feel lonely and fearful. Considering he's just 13 years old, he cannot fully comprehend about such things yet.
We have known so much about how some Filipinos view death and spirituality. From You Can Choose Your Afterlife by Mario Eric Gamalinda, we discovered that some groups believe that afterlife is determined by the way the person dies. On the other hand, eternal quest for higher being, someone supreme, someone great was witnessed in Marjorie Evasco's Is It Kingfisher. Carlos Angeles Gabu taught us that life is like a restless sea. But at some point, we will all reach that peaceful place. Lastly, Gregorio Brillantes, The Distance to Andromeda, showed us how wide the context of spirituality is and how it affects and contributes to a person's existence. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you learned much from our guests. Again, thank you Ms. Kisha Villanar, Ms. Nadine Reneses, Ms. Cleo Pimentel, and Ms. Ivy Magturo. See us again in our next episode, still here at The Mary